Hi friends, this is Cheri and Ben Jamison.
Hello.
We just got back from the Parliament of the World's Religions, and many of you have been asking how it went, so we wanted to create this little video to tell you all about it. So, first of all, there were probably close to 10,000 people there, right?
10,000 people, over 200 different spiritual organizations were represented from people from all over the planet.
To be honest, it was an overwhelming event. If you went to every single thing that, in every time slot that was offered, you wouldn't begin to scratch the surface of the things that were offered, because on any given time, there were probably 20 different presentations happening.
At 2 o'clock, at 2:15, at 2:30, at 2:45.
I know. So you could go to all kinds of different religious observances. We went to a Shabbat service that had a focus on the divine feminine in Judaism. And we went to a Sikh ceremony.
Went to a Sufi ceremony.
With the whirling dervish, which is pretty amazing. What else? You went to...
There were, you could attend pagan ceremonies if you wanted to, traditional Christian ceremonies, Catholic ceremonies. There was a cosmic mass, which takes the idea of the mass and brings it into a more holistic expression. There were any number of things that you could engage with at the Parliament, and not one person there was trying to convince anybody else that their religion was better or that their God was the right God, and to convert people. And the most amazing thing was, if you asked anybody to nutshell their religion for you, they would say something and you would go, oh, yeah, that's pretty much what I believe. Nutshell of my religion: kind words, kind thoughts, kind deeds.
That's Zoroastrianism, we found out.
Pretty much.
Awesome. And Toronto itself is a beautiful city. I think it's sort of a mix between San Francisco and New York. And it felt like everybody there was young and stylish as we were walking around. But we heard, when we were walking down the street, we heard different languages. There were all sorts of different looking people. The diversity there is
It's one of the
incredible.
most diverse cities on the planet. Their motto is, our diversity is our strength.
Yeah, that was
And
really
so to be
inspiring.
in a city that really supports and encourages diversity and honors it was also a wonderful experience.
Yeah. Tell them about Langer.
So Langer, the Sikhs, part of their spiritual practice is to feed people. And so they provided lunch to everybody who wanted lunch every day for free.
Everybody at the Parliament.
Everybody could attend. Thousands and thousands of people every day went and got this free lunch. You would walk in, they asked you to take off your shoes, and if you didn't have a headscarf, they provided one for you. They wanted your head covered simply as a sign of respect. And as you would go through the line, they would give you your tray and put 3 or 4 various things on your tray to eat, in small portions at first, but then as you were sitting down, there were 20 or 30 Sikhs walking around with more food who would constantly refill your plate over and over and over again, as much as you wanted. And then when you were done with the main course, you could walk over and have your chai tea and your dessert afterwards. It was an amazing spiritual practice. It literally and metaphorically fed us.
Going forward into the world after this, what we wanted to take home from the Parliament about climate action and women's dignity and the rights of Indigenous people, of the First Nations. What else? The next generation. How to counter hate and violence in the world and create more interfaith understanding. And since my presentation, Anne Frank and Mirabai, Women's Spiritual Legacy in Opera, was scheduled for the last slot on the last day of this 6-day full conference, we had to really pace ourselves so that, I'll speak for myself, so that I wasn't exhausted by the end of it. I actually don't have a ton of memories from the performance itself because I was so in the moment, but Ben does, so.
It was amazing. For those of you who have heard Cheri perform, you know how amazing it can be. So take what you know about the amazingness of this wonderful woman and then put that with the energy of the Parliament behind it, with the energy of these 10,000 people there to connect and learn more about the spirituality and the faith of other people. She was able to bring that whole energy into the room. The room that we were in was packed. There were very few empty seats. We had about 65 people there. They were informed about how to listen to classical music, so they knew not to applaud until the very end of each of the halves of the
segments.
performance. Now, when it came to the end of the Anne Frank performance, everybody was so engrossed in what had happened that as Cheri was walking out of the room as the last piece of the performance, basically symbolizing the deportation to Auschwitz, nobody turned around. Everybody stayed stock still, forward, unable to move, unable to really grasp what was going on. They couldn't even bring themselves to applaud for several seconds after the door closed.
I was outside the back door listening for when the applause would start, and I was like, are they going to applaud at all? I don't know.
There was such a connection, and people were
really
so
powerful.
engrossed in what was happening. So they loved that piece of it. Absolutely, it was amazing. Then we get to the Mirabai section, which has many different songs in it. It's a song cycle series, so there are multiple songs. And again, they knew they shouldn't applaud in between each movement, and yet there were several times where they just could not help themselves and had to applaud in between several songs. And when they didn't applaud in between several songs, you could absolutely hear everybody, not everybody, but many people go, oh.
It was like audible sighs. I do remember that. It was
of how
cool.
amazing it was for them to hear this beautiful music. And for myself personally, I'd heard her practice. I'd heard her rehearse these Mirabai songs, so I knew what the lyrics were. I knew what the poetry was. Or I had heard the poetry on a certain level, let me put it that way.
Rehearsals.
Once I heard her perform it, suddenly the words made sense, right? So very powerful, very moving. Again, it was an amazing performance that everybody loved.
Afterwards, I was approached by a rabbi, by a cantor, an East Indian dancer, just people who were so moved by it from these different backgrounds. And one person particularly said of my presentation, because it was all music, it was primarily music, that it was a way for her to marinate and to integrate from everything that she had learned at the Parliament. You're probably wondering, we did videotape the performance, and we're in the process of creating some excerpts for you. Unfortunately, due to music rights, I can only do about 2 minutes per piece. So I promise to get that out as quickly as I can.
But we're trying to get an hour down to 4 minutes, so it's going to take just a little bit.
Yeah. So thank you for your patience. But it's exciting because part of what I wanted to come out from this experience was to bring this recital, this opera recital, Anne Frank and Mirabai, to other places across the country. So for those of you listening, if you would like this recital to be brought to your local community, just send me a private message or email and we'll get that set up.
Yeah. So it was absolutely the life-changing experience that we anticipated it being.
Yeah.
It was moving and inspiring and empowering, and we could not have made it happen without so many of you.
Yeah, so thank you again to all of the donors who gave so generously to my GoFundMe page to help get us and my pianist, Sora Park, to the Parliament. It was an incredible experience. Again, thank you to everybody who's been supporting us and following our journey. More to come.
Bye for now.
Thanks.